Hello, dessert lovers. Welcome to Primetime Baking right here on the Chef Cardinelli Cooking Show, exclusively on the American Variety Network. I am your host, the cuckoo crazy Chef Alice Cardinelli, and it is so glad to be back live doing cooking and baking shows again. You know, the cooking show was the very first show that I ever did as a podcaster. And you know what? I really did miss the Chef Cardinelli cooking show. And I'm glad to bring it to my new podcast, the American Variety Network. Now, I love sweets. I'm a guy that has a very good sweet tooth. I also love baking. I think baking is a good hobby of mine. I love getting in the kitchen, whipping out my KitchenAid mixer, and making some homemade cakes, cookies, pies, donuts. But the one thing I really enjoy making is a good, creamy, moist, delicious cheesecake. Now, can you imagine a creamy, moist cheesecake topped with a sinfully delicious strawberry sauce? Well, I want you to imagine that because tonight we're going to talk about cheesecakes. Now, a lot of people all over the world know what a cheesecake is. Everyone in the North knows what a cheesecake is, whether you're from the United States of America or Canada or the UK. I know that you know what a cheesecake is. And I know that people in Italy and France know what a cheesecake is. So cheesecake is popular all over the world. And it's something that a lot of people love for desserts, like myself. And I think it's a great, great classic dessert that is often underrated as desserts. Not too many people know what a cheesecake is, and I know that they probably had it, but they never knew that they had a cheesecake. But anyways, tonight we're going to talk about cheesecakes, and I'm going to educate you on some things that I want you to know about cheesecakes. For example, I'm going to answer that controversial question, whether a cheesecake is a cake or a pie. A lot of people have always debated that, and we're going to answer that tonight. Plus, I'll talk about the kinds of cheesecakes there are, toppings for cheesecake, and much more. And I cannot forget that I have 7 of my delicious cheesecake recipes for you. And all 7 of these recipes I cook and bake on a regular basis. That's right. All 7 of these recipes are recipes that I've used. And a lot of my close friends and my family members have tried these delicious cheesecakes, and they know that they are really good. So some of the recipes I have for you tonight are going to be my strawberry cheesecake, my Oreo cheesecake, my Twix cheesecake, and even my very own chocolate chip cookie dough cheesecake. So I'm a big cheesecake fanatic that I have some of these exotic cheesecake flavors that you might never heard of before. You might just be thinking of cheesecake topped with strawberry sauce, and that would be your cup of tea. But I, Alice Cardinelli, take cheesecake to a whole another level when I throw things like cookie dough, Oreos, Twix, and even peanut butter in there. But I'm going to give you 7 of my great recipes that I know you're really going to enjoy. And you're also going to learn a thing or two about cheesecakes on tonight's show. So tonight's show is actually being recorded live, which means if you have a question, you're more than welcome to call in. So if you have a question on cheesecake, or you would like to share your personal favorite cheesecake recipe with us, or if you want to discuss your favorite cheesecake, please go ahead and call in at 1-347-989-8142. Again, any cheesecake questions, or to call in and chat about your favorite cheesecake, or share your personal favorite cheesecake recipe, please call in at 1-347-989-8142. All right, folks, the cheesecake discussion is live next, only on American Variety Network. We're going to take our quick introduction plugs, and when we come back, we're going to start talking cheesecake. So, don't go anywhere.
You are tuned in live to the American Variety Network, here, live on Blog Talk Radio. With a name like American Variety, you can expect a wide variety of topics. Now, let's get live here on the AV Network.
Hi, Jeremy Stillhorn. I'm tuned into the American Variety Network, where I find the show is very educational and entertaining.
Are you bold enough to call in and interact with tonight's topic? Well, prove it by calling in live at 1-347-989-8142 to ask questions about tonight's topic or share your thoughts on tonight's topic. Just pick up your phone and dial 1-347-989-8142 and go into a quiet location. Again, that's 1-347-989-8142. Now, let's get on with the show.
The Chef Cardinale Cooking Show is back on American Variety Network. American Variety Network is proud to present to you Chef Alex Cardinale and his very own successful cooking podcast called Chef Cardinale Cooking Show. Chef Alex will dive straight into your kitchen and teach you how to cook awesome meals. Are you ready for a cooking show hosted by a young, passionate, energetic, and food fun-loving chef who is going to come to each and every show with a smile? You've found the right cooking show. Want to chat food or share your recipe or ask cooking questions? Great. Just dial 1-347-989-8142. Now, let the cooking begin. Chef Cardinale, take it away.
It's time to get in the kitchen and start baking some delicious desserts and pastries. Do you have a sweet tooth like Chef Alex? Then this is the perfect show for you. Coming up live right now on the American Variety Network is Prime Time Baking, a baking radio show that will focus on baking homemade goodies. And you will get delicious baked good recipes you can use for your next bake sale or anytime. So let's get in that kitchen and start baking. Are you ready for some sweetness and sugar? Primetime Baking is now live.
Alright, so let's start talking about cheesecakes. And I want to start talking about what I like about cheesecakes. Now, the first thing I like about cheesecakes is that they're actually moist, creamy, and delicious. They're one of those desserts that is going to be nice and soft, but sweet. And it's actually going to have a little bit of moisture to it, and the cream cheese is going to give it some awesome creaminess that you might not find in other desserts, and it's delicious from the sugar and everything that you put in a cheesecake. Now, I also like that it has a crunchy crust and it has a perfect balance of textures. Not every cheesecake is going to be the same, but a majority of cheesecakes have that creamy, dense texture, and the cheesecakes that are baked are going to have like that cake-like consistency, but the ones that are not baked, the non-baked cheesecakes, are going to have that more creamy texture. So there's a texture for everyone in a cheesecake, and that is something that I really enjoy, because when I am baking cheesecakes, and some people say that they don't like their food to be hard, I say, well, I can make either a baked cheesecake or a non-baked cheesecake. Cheesecake, either way, is going to be a perfect dessert for this person because they can chew it, and if they don't have teeth, they can chew it as well, because a cheesecake is not a hard dessert to chew. Now, I also like that cheesecakes have different kinds of toppings. I mean, you can put anything you want on a cheesecake, whether it be strawberry compote, blueberry compote, raspberry compote, chocolate sauce, white chocolate sauce, caramel sauce, crushed up Oreos, M&Ms, Reese's peanut butter cups. I mean, you can put anything you want on it. Cheesecake is like a piece of paper to an artist, and you can draw whatever you want on a cheesecake, literally. Just make sure that it's a dessert kind of sauce. You wouldn't want to put ketchup or marinara sauce on a cheesecake, obviously. But the good thing about cheesecake, and one of the best things I like about cheesecake, is you can actually create a whole another dessert from a cheesecake. For example, when I'm hosting a Christmas party or I'm doing something for the holidays, I'll take a classic cheesecake and I'll turn it into a red velvet cheesecake. So I've turned a plain old cheesecake into another bold new dessert. And that is something I really like about cheesecake. And sometimes when I'm in the chocolate mood, I'll make a nice German chocolate cheesecake using my German chocolate cake recipes that I have. And I'll add that with a layer of cheesecake. And that is pretty good. So there's a number of things you can do with a cheesecake that a lot of chefs love. And cheesecake is actually a huge seller in bakeries and restaurants because a lot of people love it. And when a bakery decides to do cheesecakes, they know that some of them create interesting flavors. I know that a bakery that was open where I live, before they closed, they actually started getting famous in cheesecakes before they had to shut their doors. I know they created all these weird combination flavors. I know they had a Skittles cheesecake that was popular for the kids. And then they had like a strawberry daiquiri cheesecake that was popular for all the adults. So they proved that cheesecakes are loved by everybody. So I have never met a person that does not like a cheesecake, to be honest. And the last thing I like about cheesecakes is it's a very good creation that combines cake and pie in one dessert. In my honest opinion, to me, a cheesecake is a cake and a pie in one. I think that it has both of the textures and flavors of a cake and a pie, and it's really good. But overall, I think it's a dessert in its own right because it really is wonderful. So that's going to lead us right into our next topic. Is cheesecake a cake or a pie? Well, folks, chefs have argued whether a cheesecake is a cake or pie for many years, but nothing has ever been proven. Now, to me, in my personal opinion, it has both qualities. It has cake qualities and it has pie qualities. Now, it has qualities that resemble a pie, aka the crust and the creaminess of it, but at the same time, it has qualities that resemble a cake, the density, the moistness, and the sweetness. So, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a cake or a pie, but it really is a dessert in its own right. Now, Americans and people all over the world often pick sides. Most people refer to it as a cream cheese pie, simply because they think it's not a cake. Either way, most people have their own definition of a cheesecake. I personally would not call it a cream cheese pie, simply because that does not sound appetizing to me. Because when you think of a cream cheese pie, you're going to say, oh, that's not sweet enough. But for me, I think a cheesecake is the perfect name for this kind of dessert. So, in my honest opinion, cheesecakes are a pie. Crust, moistness, and texture. Now, I'm saying that if I had to pick, what one would I say it is? Mostly, I have to say that a cheesecake is a pie. But, like I said earlier, I think a cheesecake is a dessert in its own right. Now, did you know, in reality, a cheesecake is actually neither cake or pie? That's right. I learned this in culinary school. Cheesecake is actually classified as a custard. So, just think about that. It does kind of have the custard classification because a baked cheesecake still jiggles and a non-baked cheesecake still jiggles. But either way, it's a very delicious custard. Alright, so hopefully I helped teach you a thing or two about the whole pie cake situation with cheesecake. I thought that'd be a fun subject to bring up on tonight's show. Now, let's talk about the kinds of cheesecakes. Now, to me, there are 5 kinds of cheesecake, but technically, any chef would tell you that there's only 4. But hey, I'm not a normal chef. I'm the exotic, weird, crazed chef. So I'm going to have 5 kinds of cheesecake. The first kind of cheesecake is baked cheesecakes. These would include your Philadelphia cheesecakes and your New York cheesecake. Now, I just mentioned 2 categories of baked cheesecakes. And you're probably wondering, how do they differ from each other? Well, a Philadelphia cheesecake is lighter in texture, yet richer in flavor than New York style cheesecake. And I bet a lot of you from Philadelphia do not know you have a cheesecake. Well, it's because it's not as common as the New York cheesecake. The New York cheesecake is much more popular in the United States of America. However, I have tried both a Philadelphia and a New York cheesecake, and the taste is very different. Personally, my personal favorite style of a cheesecake is the New York cheesecake, but I also do enjoy the Philadelphia cheesecake as well. Now, let's talk about the New York cheesecake. Now, the typical New York cheesecake is rich and has a dense, smooth, and creamy consistency. Now, some New York cheesecake recipes use heavy whipping cream to give it the rich density that it has, and or sour cream. Now, usually they would use sour cream as a topping for this cheesecake. Okay, now, I have tried cheesecakes with a sour cream topping, and I like them. They're pretty good. A lot of people are scared of sour cream in desserts, but if you mix a little bit of sugar with your sour cream, I guarantee you will not be scared of it. It's actually pretty good. I prefer sour cream topping on my cheesecake, but I'll be the first to admit to you, at home, I have never added sour cream to my cheesecakes because I have some family members who really do not like sour cream, and I don't think they would eat my cheesecakes if they saw me putting sour cream in the cheesecakes. But when I was in culinary school studying pastries, we actually did use sour cream in our cheesecake, and you can't really taste the difference in my opinion, but it really is still good. So all the cheesecakes that I make are all based off of the New York cheesecake style. I like the New York cheesecake style. It's really fun to make, and it's a really good product at the end of the day. All right, so let's get back to the other kinds of cheesecakes. So now you know the baked cheesecake has 2 categories, and then there's the non-baked cheesecake. This is one that is a lot common here in the United States of America. A lot of people prefer to make a non-baked cheesecake simply because they don't want to turn on their stove or their oven. But a non-baked cheesecake is a cheesecake that sets in the fridge. And the most common kinds of non-baked cheesecakes include fruit cheesecakes and cheesecakes that are going to involve melted chocolate, because if you put melted chocolate in the oven, it's going to burn. But up here in Mass, typically the cheesecake is a baked cheesecake. You really don't see that many non-baked cheesecakes here in Mass. I know one very popular non-baked cheesecake you can actually make at home is made by Jell-O. The company that produces Jell-O has a non-baked cheesecake mix you can go to your grocery store and buy. I've made that, and it's actually pretty good. I think it's great. That little strawberry sauce packet they have in there is pretty good as well. But to me, nothing beats homemade. So I like making non-baked cheesecake as well. I've only made one homemade non-baked cheesecake in my life, and it was good, came out great, did not have any issues with it. However, me being a chef, I like to bake actually. I like getting in the kitchen, turning on the oven, and using my KitchenAid stand mixer and baking. I don't know what it is that causes me to like baking, but I prefer baking. I'm not a big fan of whipping up desserts that don't require you to use an oven just something weird with me, I guess. I guess that's why they call me the crazy chef. And the last kind of cheesecake you have is not really a cheesecake, but it's called a cheesecake filling. And this is what you would use in cupcakes. So let's say, for example, you are making red velvet cupcakes and you wanted to inject it with cream cheese. And you wanted to bake it in the oven. Normally, if you inserted cream cheese frosting into red velvet cupcake batter, it would not be cream cheese frosting anymore. It'd be burned in the center of your cupcake during the finished product, and you don't want that. So what you would use is a cheesecake filling mixture, and you would basically make a baked cheesecake batter and put that in the center of your red velvet cupcake. Cheesecake fillings are also used on brownies. You might have a marbled brownie that is made with cheesecake as the marbling, and then you might also have stuffed donuts that are also filled with cream cheese. Cheesecake filling, like Dunkin' Donuts is now selling cheesecake donuts. I know pretty soon their competition is going to be releasing cheesecake donuts as well. So those are some ideas of cheesecake fillings. I actually really enjoy the cheesecake fillings, and I enjoy inserting a cheesecake filling into my red velvet cupcakes or into my brownies and things of that nature. So those are your 5 kinds of cheesecakes. All right? Now, let's talk about cheesecake ingredients. Well, obviously, the first ingredient for your cheesecake is going to be one type of cheese. And in America, we use cream cheese. Now, for me, I recommend all of my listeners to use the brand Philadelphia, because when I am trying to bring my cream cheese to room temperature, I find that for whatever reason, Philadelphia cream cheese comes to room temperature much faster than any of the generic brands, like the Walmart brand or my local grocery store's brand. I don't know, maybe it's because I love Philadelphia cream cheese so much that I'm making up some excuse for it, but I really love Philadelphia cream cheese, and I'm telling you the truth. I believe that the Philadelphia cream cheese comes to room temperature much faster than any other brand. And when you're making a cheesecake, it is really essential and it is really important to make sure that your cream cheese is at room temperature, because you don't want any lumps in your cheesecake batter, because if you have lumps, it ain't going to bake right. So remember, when making a cheesecake, your cream cheese must be at room temperature. Now in Italy, they don't use cream cheese. They use ricotta cheese, and some recipes also call for mascarpone cheese. And in other countries, I'm pretty sure they use other kinds of cheese besides cream cheese. But since this show is listened to by Americans, Canadians, and people all over the northern part of the world, we'll just say that our cheese for this show is going to be cream cheese. Now you're also going to need sugar, because you cannot have a dessert without sugar, right? Desserts are supposed to be sweet. You're going to need some vanilla extract or any other sort of extract, whether it be lemon extract, almond extract, or any other sort of extract. Really, the role of an extract in a cheesecake or any kind of dessert is to insert a little bit of flavor. And lemon juice is a great addition to any cheesecake. It really gives it a little bit of tang to your cheesecake. Most cheesecake recipes call for eggs and egg yolks, which will give it that dense flavor, the density that a cheesecake requires. Most cheesecake recipes will call for sour cream if your recipe is a New York style cheesecake. And then some cheesecakes will call for heavy cream and milk if you are using a New York style cheesecake again. So those are all of your basic cheesecake ingredients. Again, those would be cream cheese, sugar, vanilla extract, lemon juice, egg and egg yolks, sour cream, heavy cream, and milk. Now, if you're doing a specialty cheesecake, Let's say, for example, you're going to be making an Oreo cheesecake. Well, then you're going to need crushed up Oreos. So if you're making a Reese's peanut butter cup cheesecake, you're going to need Reese's peanut butter cups and peanut butter. So really, the basic cheesecake is all the ingredients I listed plus your specialty ingredients, whatever kind of specialty cheesecake you are making. Okay? Now, a cheesecake would not be a cheesecake without a crust. I hate people who make cheesecakes without a crust. Well, let's just say I don't hate you, but I hate that kind of a cheesecake. So, here is the kinds of crusts that happen on a cheesecake. The first is a graham cracker crust, and obviously that is made with broken up graham crackers. The second is a ginger snap crust, which is made with ginger snap cookies. This is used to add some little bit of extra flavor to like a pumpkin cheesecake or a gingerbread cheesecake or a cinnamon cheesecake, because ginger snap goes well with pumpkin, cinnamon, and gingerbread. Oreo crust is made with broken up Oreo cookies. This works well with any sort of cheesecake. Chocolate and strawberry goes well together. And if you're making like an Oreo cheesecake or a Twix cheesecake, I recommend using a Oreo crust. And last but not least, what seems to be the most forgotten about kind of crust is the vanilla wafer crust. My personal favorite cheesecake crust. When I'm making a homemade crust, which I haven't done in a while, I prefer to use a vanilla wafer crust for my cheesecake. So like I said, it is essential to have a crust for your cheesecake. Okay? Now, let's talk about sauces and fillings for cheesecakes, because plain cheesecake is great, but I take it up a notch and I put a sauce or a filling on my cheesecake. So, you have your fruit compotes, or also known as fruit sauces, and it can be any kind of fruit, whether you want it to be a strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, or even apple and cherry. You can use any sort of fruit sauce that you want for your cheesecake. It all tastes great. And you could actually go to the store and buy some Duncan Hines canned pie filling for fruit. That would work as well. I have cheated sometimes and used the canned pie fillings on cheesecake, and they're pretty good. But I do enjoy taking the time to sit on the stove and make a very good strawberry compote or a raspberry compote or a blueberry compote. Sure, it is time consuming, but it is really, really fun, and I really enjoy it. Okay, so the fruit compote is the most common kind of sauce or filling to any cheesecake. But if you're a big chocolate lover like me, well, then you have to have a chocolate sauce on your cheesecake. Now, for me, I think the best chocolate sauce on a cheesecake would be a Ghirardelli white chocolate sauce. And I simply make that by taking some Ghirardelli white chocolate, cutting it into chunks, and making a white chocolate ganache by melting the white chocolate, a little bit of butter, and like a teaspoon or so of milk, whisking that together until it's melted, and I pour that on my cheesecake, and I allow that to harden. And when it hardens, it's going to create a nice white chocolate crust on the top of your cheesecake. But if you're not a big fan of putting ganache on top of desserts, I never ever met a fan who was not a fan of ganache. So, or excuse me, that made no sense, right? I never ever met a person who is not a fan of having ganache on desserts. But anyways, if you're not a fan of having ganache on your cheesecake, you can actually make a white chocolate sauce by melting your white chocolate. Just don't add any butter and a little bit of milk. Now, if this hardens, all you have to do is reheat it in your microwave before you serve again. But chocolate sauces are very good on cheesecake, especially if you're doing like a chocolate-based cheesecake. For example, I'm going to bring up an Oreo cheesecake again, or any of those flavored cheesecakes. Now, caramel sauce is great on cheesecake. I think caramel enhances any dessert, really. I love caramel on my apples. I love caramel on my cheesecake. I love it on everything. So caramel sauce is great on a cheesecake. Now, peanut butter sauce is good. The reason that you don't see peanut butter sauce available at a lot of restaurants is because of the food allergies. A lot of people are getting allergic to peanuts now, and a lot of the restaurants usually don't deal with peanut butter anymore. Bakeries are really careful on dealing with peanut butter as well. I remember one of my local bakeries up here used to specialize in peanut butter cookies, and they don't carry them on their display racks anymore because of the allergies. You have to special order them now. It really is sad that a lot of people are getting allergic to peanuts now. And I remember one of my chain restaurants had a cheesecake, and you can get choice of sauces, and they had a peanut butter sauce. They no longer have that because somebody with an allergy had a peanut butter sauce, and they sued them because they got allergic reaction to that peanut butter sauce. So what did the restaurant do? Well, they took away that peanut butter sauce, unfortunately, because it was really good. But peanut butter sauce at home, if you don't have a allergy to peanuts, it's a really good complement to cheesecakes. And when I give you my Reese's peanut butter cup cheesecake later on in the show, I'm also going to give you my homemade peanut butter sauce. Now, Oreos and other cookies would be good Oreos and other cookies would be a good cheesecake topping. All right, because I think cheesecake and Oreos go great together. And if you look on YouTube, a lot of people feel the same way that I do. If you type in Oreo cheesecake on YouTube, you're going to see 1,000 results because a lot of people love the combination of cheesecake and Oreos. Now, you could also use Twix, Kit Kat, Reese's, and other candies to make a chocolate version of a cheesecake. It really is good. And other goodies such as sprinkles, chocolate chips, etc. could be used for making a good quality cheesecake. So really, cheesecake is like a form of art. You can add whatever you want to it and make it your own style. And I think you're really going to enjoy having a delicious cheesecake that you made because it really is fun. All right? So, the last thing we'll talk about before I give you my recipes, I want to tell you my tips for making the best cheesecake you're ever going to have. All right? And I had the help of my former pastry chef who was my instructor for baking and pastry arts. So, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. Actually, this is all her words. She wrote it down on a word pad, and I printed out it. So, everything that I'm about to read to you is her words for the best cheesecake. So, these are her tips for making the best cheesecake. So, first, you must pre-bake your crust. Doing this results in a crispy crust that keeps its shape when cutting to serve. Alright, so make sure you pre-bake your crust. Next, as I mentioned earlier in the show, soften your cream cheese. By softening your cream cheese, it will be much easier to mix and you avoid lumps and huge air bubbles in your cheesecake as it bakes. Now, she recommends leaving your cream cheese out for 2 hours before baking. Now, don't be afraid to whip and mix. Whipping your cheesecake will create a creamy cheesecake that is completely smooth. Do not be afraid to overmix. Doing this results in a crispy crust. Oh, excuse me. I was reading the same thing over again. Sorry about that. So, don't be afraid to overmix. Now, keep an eye on temperatures. If you are making a baked cheesecake, follow the directions on the recipe for the exact baking temperature. If it says 375 degrees, make sure the oven is preheated to Make sure the oven is preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So, if your recipe says the cheesecake needs to be baked at 375, make sure you bake your cheesecake at 375. Because if it's under 375, it won't bake right. Over it, it will crack and burn and become dry. Okay? Now, make sure you bake for the correct amount of time listed on the recipe. Do not over or underbake, because if you overbake, it's going to be dry, and nobody wants a dry cheesecake. If you underbake your cheesecake, it's going to be liquidy and disgusting. So make sure you cook your cheesecake to the correct time. Now, if the recipe states 35 to 40 minutes, go with the middle, usually being 37 to 38 minutes, or go full 40 minutes. Now, the saying that everyone's ovens is different is correct. Now, it may take you 35 minutes to bake your cheesecake, or it may take you 41 minutes to bake your cheesecake. Everybody's oven is different, but usually the average time it will take will be 37 to 40 minutes. One way you can tell your cheesecake is done is if it does not, one way you can tell your cheesecake is done is if you put your finger in it and it springs back. That is how you can tell your cheesecake is done. Okay? Now, cracks are okay. Some cheesecakes will crack and others won't. She recommends using a water bath if you really, really want to prevent cracks. If you are a perfectionist and you want to prevent cracks, make sure you use a water bath. Now, the cracks will decrease as the cheesecake cools, and you can garnish the cracks with a sour cream topping that was sweetened with sugar, or you can hide the cracks with whipped cream or your favorite fruit sauce, chocolate sauce, or any dessert sauce you may pour over the entire cheesecake. Okay? All right. Now let's talk about cooling your cheesecake. It's a very important way to ensure a good cheesecake is the proper way to cool it. Now, once removed from your oven, let cool to room temperature. Never, ever place a hot cheesecake straight into the fridge, as it will never cool and set on time. You will prolong the cooling process and the setting process if you put it straight into the fridge after it comes out of the oven. Let it sit on the counter until it cools down completely. Make sure it is cool when you touch it, and then you can put it in the fridge. Alright, so like I said, once it reaches room temperature, place it into the refrigerator and let it set for 6 hours to 24 hours. The longer you let it set, the better. Now, cheesecake is best served at room temperature. Remove from the fridge 20 to 30 minutes before serving, and then use a knife dipped in warm water to make even slices. So hopefully you know now how to make a delicious cheesecake and the best cheesecake. So I'd like to say thank you to Chef Diana for sharing all these wonderful cheesecake tips for you. Now, Chef Diana was my pastry arts instructor at my culinary school. She's a very nice lady. She's actually very sexy as well. So special shout out to Chef Diana. And she's actually not teaching anymore, but she's working at a fine dining restaurant as the pastry chef. And I could not be any more excited for her. She definitely deserves it. And I can't wait to check out that restaurant and try one of her specialty cheesecakes. She has a great tiramisu cheesecake that I really enjoy, and I think it's a great cheesecake idea. All right, so 42 minutes of cheesecake chat. I hope all of you learned a thing or two about cheesecakes and are ready for a great recipe time, because tonight I've got 7 delicious cheesecake recipes that I'm going to give to you. But first, we're going to go ahead and take an intermission. Alright, we're going to hear a couple of songs and my infomercials. So, coming up next, it's recipe time with Chef Alex Cardinelli, and you will get 7 of my delicious cheesecake recipes, including my cookie dough cheesecake, my Oreo cheesecake, strawberry cheesecake, and more. If you want to cook and bake my delicious cheesecake recipes, stay tuned and you will get them. They are next, right after this intermission, and we'll be right back after this quick intermission. Now, during this intermission, I'm going to play two songs. The first song is called Love and Nature by Keith Hines, and the second song is from one of my favorite rappers who I just recently met. He's not well known. He's a great rapper. He's going to be a guest right here on the American Variety Network in a few weeks. His name is Ryan Serini, and then his song is called Better Left Unsaid. So, folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to take about a 10-minute intermission, and when we come back, we are going to give you 7 delicious cheesecake recipes.
puts me in a love trap.
There's no immunity, everyone's subject to scrutiny. It's about image, rap money, bitches. Fuck real life shit, they only want gimmicks. So let me force feed you some more bullshit, so you don't have to admit how shitty your life is. Matter of fact, I'll do you one better. Dumb my shit down, start rapping about cheddar, knowing you still living at home with mom. Yeah!
Do you have something you'd like to promote or advertise? Do you want to get some much needed exposure for your business or your very own Facebook page or even your very own podcast? Well, look no further than Jackie's help and advice for promoting on Facebook. Jackie will help you advertise your goods and help you spread the word. I, Alice Cardinelli, have personally been great friends with Miss Jackie Wilkes, and she has a very kind heart, and she is a very sweet lady, and she will definitely help you grow. like she has helped Alex Cardinelli grow. To advertise and promote your business or anything you want to advertise, please like and check out the page Jackie's Help and Advice for promoting on Facebook. Are you enjoying tonight's episode of the American Variety Network? Great! The American Variety Network really appreciates your listening. We also appreciate listener feedback. Please feel free to email us your thoughts and opinions on tonight's show. Our email address is AmericanVarietyNetwork@Comcast.net. That's AmericanVariety.Network@Comcast.net. You may also email us with any questions, comments, or concerns you may have about our show. You can also email us to book a guest appearance on the American Variety Network, or you may contact us to become a sponsor of the American Variety Network. American Variety Network@Comcast.net. Would you like to find out when the next episode of the American Variety Network is? Do you want to find out the news and updates for the American Variety Network? Well, all you have to do is go on your computer and log on to the social media sites. The American Variety Network is now on Facebook and Twitter. That's right, you can find the American Variety Network on Facebook and Twitter. Like our fan page on Facebook called American Variety Network, and follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter fan page is @American Network 1. Again, our fan page on Facebook is American Variety Network. Hit like, and our fan page on Twitter is @American Network 1, and hit follow. While you're here listening to this show on Blog Talk Radio, feel free to check out some of the other great shows Blog Talk Radio has to offer. There are shows for everyone, whether it be sports shows, politics shows, comedy shows, talk shows, and yes, even church religious shows. Become a loyal listener of
Blog Talk Radio
today. blogtalkradio.com.
Happy Halloween from Alex Cardinelli and all of us here at the American Variety Network. We hope that your month is full of tricks and treats as well as plenty of scariness. Don't forget to enjoy some delicious candy this Halloween season. The American Variety Network suggests Reese's, Kit Kat, Snickers, and some Oreos for delicious Halloween treats. Make sure you have your candy ready for trick or treating. Happy Halloween!
You're listening to the American Variety Network,
your only place for variety on Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, Jeremy Stillhorn. I'm tuned into the American Variety Network, where I find the shows very educational and entertaining.
Are you bold enough to call in and interact with tonight's topic? Well, prove it by calling in live at 1-347-989-8142 to ask questions about tonight's topic or share your thoughts on tonight's topic. Just pick up your phone and dial 1-347-989-8142 and go into a quiet location. Again, that's 1-347-989-8142. Now let's get on with the show.
The Chef Cardinale Cooking Show is back on American Variety Network. American Variety Network is proud to present to you Chef Alex Cardinale and his very own successful cooking podcast called Chef Cardinale Cooking Show. Chef Alex will dive straight into your kitchen and teach you how to cook awesome meals. Are you ready for a cooking show hosted by a young, passionate, energetic, and food fun-loving chef who is going to come to each and every show with a smile? You've found the right cooking show. Want to chat food or share your recipe or ask cooking questions? Great. Just dial 1-347-989-8142. Now, let the cooking begin. Chef Cardinale, take it away.
It's time to get in the kitchen and start baking some delicious desserts and pastries. Do you have a sweet tooth like Chef Alex? Then this is the perfect show for you. Coming up live right now on the American Variety Network is Primetime Baking, a baking radio show that will focus on baking homemade goodies. And you will get delicious baked good recipes you can use for your next bake sale or anytime. So let's get in that kitchen and start baking. Are you ready for some sweetness and sugar? Primetime Baking is now live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to tonight's episode of Primetime Baking, where I, Chef Alex Cardinale, am discussing cheesecakes right here on the American Variety Network. Now, before intermission, I was telling you all the information that you need to know about cheesecakes so that hopefully you will leave today's show knowing a thing or two about cheesecakes. And in the process, I hope I made you all very hungry, because coming up in a minute here, I'm going to give you 7 of my delicious cheesecake recipes that I want you to use. Alright? All these recipes that I'm going to give you tonight, I use on a frequent basis, and my family members and my friends love them. Now, before I give you my personal cheesecake recipes, I want to remind you, if you're listening live and you have a cheesecake question, or you want to call in and share your very own personal cheesecake recipe, you may do so by dialing in at 1-347-989-8142. Again, that's 1-347-989-8142. All right, guys, it's that time of the show that you've been waiting for.
It's recipe time with Chef Alex Cardinale. Are you ready for Chef Alex's delicious and mouth-watering recipes that are sure to taste as good as they sound? Be sure to grab a pen and a piece of paper and write down these delicious recipes. Now, let's get on to recipe time.
All right, folks, make sure you have your pen and paper ready, or your computer and your keyboard, so that you can type or write down these recipes, because I guarantee you, you're going to like these recipes. They're very delicious, and they're awesome cheesecake. Now, please note, all of the recipes I give you are going to use store-bought pie crust, only because I personally do not have a springform pan yet. Alright, but I want you to know that all of my recipes that I'm going to give out tonight use a store-bought pie crust, so you too as well can use a store-bought pie crust as well. I would prefer to use homemade crust, but like I said, at home I don't have a springform pan yet, but I'm going to get one for Christmas so that I can actually make homemade crust. But there is nothing wrong with store-bought pie crust. Now, if you're somebody who likes making your own crust, I do have a recipe that I used in culinary school, and this is a recipe that I will use when I get a springform pan. Now here is my cheesecake crust recipe. Alright, now you're going to start off with 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs, or you can use 1.5 cups of Oreos, or 1.5 cups of ginger snaps, or 1.5 cups of vanilla wafers. Whatever cookie you want to use is fine. You're also going to need 3 tablespoons of sugar and 1/3 cup of butter or margarine melted. Now you want to mix your graham crackers, your 3 tablespoons of sugar, and butter together. Press onto bottom of a 9-inch spring foam pan. Okay? Awesome. Now, let's get into my delicious cheesecake recipes. The first recipe I'm going to give you is my strawberry cheesecake. Moist, creamy, dense cheesecake meets a sinfully delicious, sweet, tangy strawberry sauce that you're going to adore. So here we go. Chef Alex's strawberry cheesecake. 4 packages, 8 ounces each, of Philadelphia cream cheese, softened. 1 cup of sugar. 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 4 eggs. That is the ingredients for the cheesecake. Now to make the cheesecake, heat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Beat cream cheese, 1 cup of sugar, and vanilla with mixer until blended. Add eggs one at a time, mixing on low speed after each just until blended. Pour over crust. Bake 55 minutes or until center is almost set. Run knife around rim of pan to loosen the cheesecake. Cool before removing rim. And refrigerate the cheesecake 4 hours to set up completely. Now, let's get right to that delicious strawberry sauce. So here is Chef Alex's strawberry sauce. You're going to need 1 pint of fresh strawberries. You're going to need 1/3 of a cup of white sugar, and you're going to need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Wash the strawberries and remove stems. Cut the large berries in half or roughly chop them. Combine strawberries, sugar, and vanilla in a saucepan. Cook over medium-high heat, stirring occasionally. Now, the mixture is going to sizzle for a while, but then juice will begin to form. Continue stirring. Mash a few strawberries with a wooden spoon or heat-proof spatula to help produce the syrup. Cook until sauce thickens, about 15 minutes. Now, remove from heat. In a blender, puree about 1/3 of the sauce, then mix back into remaining topping. Store in a refrigerator for about an hour or 2, and then you're ready to use that awesome strawberry sauce. Now, I will tell you, I've made this strawberry sauce not just for cheesecake, but for bread pudding, pancakes, waffles, ice cream. It is a great recipe, and it is really good. Now, if you don't feel like taking all that time to make a strawberry sauce, then a strawberry pie filling by Duncan Hines or any brand is a great substitute. But if you're a good cook, then I must tell you, go ahead and make my strawberry sauce. And that is my strawberry cheesecake recipe. Okay, now let's get into my next recipe. And if you're a peanut butter chocolate lover, this is for you, folks. Here we go. Chef Alex's peanut butter cheesecake. Now, for a crust, I say you have to use an Oreo cheesecake. Or excuse me, for a crust, you have to use an Oreo cookie crust for this. This is my recipe, and I use an Oreo cookie crust. But, for you, feel free to do what you want. If you don't like Oreo cookie crust, you can use a graham cracker crust. But for this cheesecake, you're going to need a pie crust. And, like I said, I recommend an Oreo cookie crust, but you can use a graham cracker crust. You're also going to need 4 packages, 8 ounces each, of Philadelphia cream cheese, softened. You will need 1 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, 4 eggs, 1 cup of peanut butter mixed with half a cup of powdered sugar. Now, the role of the powdered sugar is to sweeten your peanut butter just a little bit, because if you're going to be adding peanut butter right to your cheesecake, the peanut butter is going to be a little bit bitter, and not in a bad way, but I prefer my peanut butter to be a little bit sweet in my dessert. So what I do is I mix it with a half cup of powdered sugar. However, if you like the peanut butter the way it is, then don't add the sugar to it, okay? All right, so those are your ingredients for the actual cheesecake. You will need chocolate sauce to accompany the cheesecake when you are serving it. So to make a chocolate sauce, all you've got to do is melt some chocolate chips on the stove with a little bit of heavy cream and a little bit of milk. That's how I make my chocolate sauce. I add a little bit of sugar if I'm not using sweet chocolate. If you're using regular baking chocolate, I would recommend using about a tablespoon of sugar, because we all know baking chocolate is very, very bitter and disgusting. Okay, but if you're going to use baking chocolate, I would add sugar. However, for a chocolate sauce, I personally recommend using Ghirardelli chocolate or a regular Hershey's chocolate bar. However, if you want to make a lot of chocolate sauce, I recommend buying a lot of Hershey chocolate bars, or one giant one, like they sell in the candy aisle of the grocery stores. Cut it up into chunks, that way it melts faster, and you have a nice chocolate sauce to accompany your cheesecake, the peanut butter cheesecake. Now let's talk about making the peanut butter cheesecake. Heat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Beat your cream cheese, 1 cup of sugar, and vanilla, whisk mixer until blended. Add eggs one at a time, mixing on low speed after each just until blended. Pour over your crust. Bake 55 minutes or until center is almost set. Run the knife around the rim of the pan to loosen cake. Cool before removing rim. And refrigerate cheesecake for 4 hours. And then take your chocolate sauce and drizzle over your peanut butter cheesecake. I made a mistake. I forgot to tell you that when you beat your cream cheese, your sugar, and your vanilla, you want to add your peanut butter and sugar mix to that. Okay? So, when you are making this peanut butter cheesecake, make sure that when you have your cream cheese, your 1 cup of sugar, and vanilla in the mixing bowl, make sure you add your 1 cup of peanut butter that is mixed together with your 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. Okay? All right. So once you let your cheesecake chill in the fridge for 4 hours or more, when it comes time to serving it, take it out of the fridge, let it come to room temperature, and drizzle on your warm chocolate sauce. Make sure your chocolate sauce is warm, because it tastes a little bit better warm, and you don't want it to harden quickly. Do not put the chocolate sauce on the cheesecake overnight, because it'll become a ganache. You want it to stay a chocolate sauce for serving, because peanut butter and chocolate go great together. So make sure that when you are serving this, your chocolate sauce is warm so that it stays like a sauce. It stays into a liquid. All right, you can also add some more peanut butter to the top of this, like a peanut butter whipped cream or something, but this is a great recipe. Okay, my next recipe, another unusual cheesecake, but this is one that a lot of Americans love. You know, when we went camping this summer, I made this recipe, and it really is great. I think you guys are going to like it. So this is Chef Alex's S'mores cheesecake, and a lot of Americans out there love s'mores. I mean, what could go wrong with graham crackers, marshmallow, and chocolate? I love those 3 combinations. So, and I love cheesecake too, so let's combine them all. So here is Chef Alex's S'mores cheesecake. You will need 4 packages, 8 ounces each, of Philadelphia cream cheese softened, 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 4 eggs, 1 cup of marshmallow fluff, 1 cup of chopped Hershey's chocolate or chocolate chips, and a 1/2 cup of mini marshmallows. Heat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Beat your cream cheese, 1 cup of sugar, and vanilla, whisk mixer until blended. Add eggs, one at a time, mixing on low speed until after each, just until blended. Add the marshmallow, fluff, chocolate, and marshmallows. You can also add extra graham crackers if you wish, but I did not. I think it was fine just with the regular graham cracker crust. Pour this batter over your graham cracker crust. Bake 55 minutes or until center is almost set. And again, run the knife around the rim of pan to loosen cake and cool completely before removing rim, and allow your cheesecake to set in the fridge 4 hours to 24 hours overnight. Then you could take your cheesecake out of the refrigerator and serve it as is, or you can drizzle marshmallow fluff on top and whipped cream and some more chocolate. Man, I've got to tell you, this s'mores cheesecake is great. I think it's one of my personal favorite summer recipes, and I'm definitely going to make it in the wintertime as well. What the hell? I'll make it all year round. It's a great recipe, and I personally recommend to anybody that loves cheesecake, that loves marshmallows, that loves graham crackers, that loves chocolate, this s'mores cheesecake recipe is the bomb. You're going to love it. All right? Okay, now, I love Oreos. There is nothing I don't love more than Oreos in this world. Anyone that is a personal friend of mine or anyone in my family knows that Alex Cardinelli loves Oreos. I also love cheesecake. So as the chef that I am, I said, you know what? Let me create an Oreo cheesecake. But since so many other people out there on YouTube are calling it an Oreo cheesecake, what am I going to call it? Well, I call this Chef Alex's Cookies and Cream Cheesecake. This, perhaps, has to be my most requested cheesecake ever. I'm not kidding you. My brothers love it. My friends love it. The people that I went to culinary school love it. And I'm pretty sure you're going to love it as well. Anytime I run into somebody who I went to culinary school with, they're like, hey, Alex, I made your cookies and cream cheesecake the other day for my birthday party, and my people loved it. Thank you so much for giving me the recipe. Or people that I barely know, but they went to the same school that I was in, and they actually bought the cheesecake when I worked at the restaurant. You're like, that was a great cheesecake. Can we have the recipe? Can we have the recipe? And then I tell them, well, tune into my cooking show. I'll have it on there. So hopefully those people are listening to this show because I gave them the link and everything. So hopefully they should be listening to this show. Nonetheless, here is my recipe for Chef Alex's Cookies and Cream Cheesecake. For this recipe, I hope, I pray, you will use an Oreo crust, because an Oreo crust is the best crust for this cheesecake. So please take my advice and use an Oreo crust for this cheesecake. Okay? An Oreo crust is your friend. Okay? I love South Park if you can't tell. Alright, so the ingredients for the actual cookies and cream cheesecake are 4 packages, 8 ounces each of Philadelphia cream cheese softened, 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 4 eggs, 3 tablespoons of heavy cream, 15 Oreo cookies chopped, Oreos for garnish. Yes, that's right, you're going to need 15 Oreos chopped, plus an additional 2 to 4 Oreos for garnish. So make sure you don't eat the entire pack of Oreos before making this cheesecake, because I'm guilty of buying a pack of Oreos to make a cheesecake, and I'll sit there and eat a whole bunch of them, realizing I need them for my recipe. So don't be a big fat guy like me and eat the Oreos before you make the cheesecake. Alright, so beat the cream cheese, 1 cup of sugar, and the vanilla, whisk mixer until blended. Add your eggs one at a time, mixing on low speed after each, just until blended. Add your cream and stir in your Oreos. Pour over your crust. Now bake 55 minutes or until center is almost set. Now make sure, again, this is important, this is why I keep repeating this for every recipe. Run the knife around the rim of the pan to loosen the cake and cool completely before removing the rim. Refrigerate cheesecake for 4 hours to an hour, and then when it comes time to serve it, garnish with Oreos. Okay? And I gotta tell you, you're gonna like this recipe. I think if you like Oreos and cheesecake, it's gonna be a win-win for you. Alright, now the next recipe I have for you is one that I really like because I like chocolate, I like caramel, and I like cheesecake. Now, one of my personal favorite candies that I adore and I enjoy is Twix. Twix is the perfect candy for a guy like me that likes caramel. Caramel makes the world great again, doesn't it? I think so. Alright, so I actually came up with this recipe by accident because I was going to be doing a caramel cheesecake. And as we know, you can't make everything perfect when you bake. You are going to have accidents as a chef, and you are going to have accidents when you are baking desserts. So let's just say my very first caramel cheesecake was a total failure. I hid that from you on my very first cheesecake show when I first did the Chef Cardinale cooking show. But hey, I'm going to tell you the truth. I failed with my very first caramel cheesecake. And I was so upset. Luckily, it was at home. It was at home because if it was at culinary school, I would have wasted my ingredients that I paid for. Don't get me wrong, I paid for my ingredients here at home, but at culinary school, you're paying for your ingredients, and you're also paying for your grades, too. And not to mention, this was actually supposed to be served in the restaurant that day, if I was going to make it there. But I made it at home. This is where it failed at home. So I was kind of sad about it, and I talked to my pastry chef, and he actually told me, well, I know that you like Twix. You make a pretty good cheesecake. So why just not make a regular cheesecake batter and add some Twix to it? And I was like, wow, that's a good idea. So this is exactly what this recipe is. It's a rehab from that failed recipe, and it's much better, and it's fail-proof now. So I figured I would share the story with you before I actually gave you the recipe. So here it is, Chef Alex's Twix Cheesecake. You'll need 4 packages of Philadelphia cream cheese, and you want it to be softened at room temperature. You will need 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 4 eggs, 1 cup of caramel sauce that you can make yourself or purchase from the ice cream aisle. You're going to need 12 mini Twix bars chopped and 2 or 3 additional Twix bars chopped into really small pieces for garnish. Okay? So make sure your oven is preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to beat your cream cheese, your 1 cup of sugar and vanilla until blended. Like the other cheesecakes, you want to add your eggs one at a time, mixing on low speed until each is blended together. Add the caramel and fold in Twix bars. Pour over your crust and bake for 55 minutes or until center is almost set. And again, you want to refrigerate this cheesecake for 4 hours, and also make sure that when you serve it, you place those cut up Twix bars on top, the additional Twix bars that you have for garnish. Okay, now my final actual cheesecake recipe is my cookie dough cheesecake. And this is one that I recently came up with for the Christmas of 2014. So this is a recently new recipe. And I made this for the Christmas of last year, and I also made it for this year's Easter. And it was actually a very good recipe, because let's think about it. When we think of Christmas, we think of cookies. But I like the spotlight being on cookie dough, because we love cookie dough. Studies are showing Americans love cookie dough. Cookie dough ice cream, edible cookie dough. Yes, there's a thing such as edible cookie dough now. And we even eat raw cookie dough, which we shouldn't, but we do. So I figured, you know what? Why not make a cookie dough cheesecake? Technically, this cookie dough would be considered safe to eat because it gets baked in the oven, and it will not cook fully, but it will still be cookie dough. Now, the cookie dough that you have garnished on top will bake until a cookie. So you're going to have cookie on top of a cheesecake with cookie dough on the inside. Brilliant idea. Brilliant. And guess who came up with that idea? Me! That's right, Chef Alex. This is the recipes that I created on my own. I took the basic Philadelphia cheesecake recipe and I added my very own cookie dough to it. So here we go. You're going to need 4 packages of Philadelphia cream cheese softened, 1 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and 4 eggs. You're also going to need 1 box of store-bought cookie dough if you don't like to make your own made cookie dough, or you will need homemade cookie dough. I prefer to use the homemade cookie dough, but you can use whatever you want. Any kind of cookie dough you want, too. Does not have to be chocolate chip cookie dough. You can use sugar cookie dough, peanut butter cookie dough, M&M cookie dough, oatmeal raisin cookie dough. Any sort of cookie dough you want, you can use for this. All right? Now, beat your cream cheese, 1 cup of sugar, and vanilla with mixer until blended. Add eggs, 1 at a time, mixing on low speed after it reaches just until blended. Fold in cookie dough. Pour over crust. Now, before baking, roll cookie dough into balls and place on top of cheesecake. Make about 5 balls. This will give a cookie on top of cheesecake and give an extra oomph to your cookie. Okay? So make sure you roll out 5 cookie dough balls to put on top of your cheesecake because it's going to make a nice cookie flavor to your cookie. Alrighty? Hopefully there's no technical issues right now. But you want to bake this cheesecake for 55 minutes or until center is almost set. And refrigerate this cheesecake 4 hours or overnight and serve. It's a great cheesecake. Okay, my friends? Alright, my last and final recipe for tonight is Chef Alex's cheesecake filling that you can use to fill cupcakes, donuts, or even use on brownies. So here is Chef Alex's cheesecake filling. You'll need 16 ounces of cream cheese, 3 cups of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. And if you're going to be putting this in cupcakes, you want to add 1 egg. But if you're going to be filling donuts with this, you don't add an egg because you don't want that raw egg in there. So for cupcakes and brownies, you're going to cream together the cream cheese, powdered sugar, vanilla extract, lemon juice, and the egg. Then, after that, you can put that into your cheesecake batter or your cupcake batter or your brownie batter. Then once that is done, just bake as usual. Now, if you're using this as stuffed cupcakes or cupcake frosting or stuffed donuts, all you need to do is cream the cream cheese, powdered sugar, vanilla extract, and lemon juice together, and you are set to go. Okay? So, hopefully, you have no problems with that recipe. Alright, folks, those are all of my delicious cheesecake recipes. I hope that you will give all these recipes a try. These are wonderful, delicious cheesecake recipes that I think you are going to enjoy. Okay, so folks, I want you to use these recipes. Now, if I spoke too fast and you need the recipe, I have them saved to my computer. So please email me at AmericanVarietyNetwork@Comcast.net and I will send the recipe to you. Okay, I'm also going to post these recipes on the American Variety Network fan group and the Chef Cardinelli Cooking Podcast fan group on Facebook. So I advise you to check out those great groups on Facebook. I'm also going to post all of my cheesecake recipes on the forum DiscussCooking.com. Alright, so I advise you to check that out as well. So the recipes are going to go on Facebook. They're going to go on my Facebook group, American Variety Network fan group, the Chef Cardinelli Cooking Podcast fan group, and DiscussingCooking.com, the wonderful cooking forum. Now, if you're not on Facebook or if you don't follow that cooking forum, please email me at AmericanVarietyNetwork@Comcast.net, and I will send you these recipes. Awesome show. I enjoyed talking about cheesecakes tonight, and I hope you as well enjoyed learning about cheesecakes. Okay, I hope you enjoyed learning about cheesecakes, and I hope you had a good time listening to today's show. Okay, now Primetime Baking is back every single Wednesday right here on the American Variety Network. Now, next Wednesday, on the next episode of Primetime Baking, I am proud to announce I have my very own guest, my very first guest on Primetime Baking. Ladies and gentlemen, next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, I present to you Petite's Famous Cheesecake Bakery. Owner of Petite's Famous Cheesecake Bakery, Patrick Petite, will be live on the American Variety Network next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I believe, I don't want to give you a date, but I believe it's Wednesday, October 6th. I don't know, but it's next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll have Patrick Petite, the owner of Famous Cheesecakes, live here on Primetime Baking. So with that being said, the Chef Cardinelli Cooking Show is now officially back, and Primetime Baking is now back. We have Primetime Baking every Wednesday, and the Chef Cardinelli Cooking Show every single Sunday. So, food lovers, baking lovers, you're going to have a cooking show 2 times a week that I look forward to doing. So, we'll talk about cheesecakes again, this time from a cheesecake expert, Patrick Petite, next Wednesday. We will see you next Wednesday here on Primetime Baking. Don't forget to join me this Sunday, October 4th, 2015 at 9 p.m. Eastern as Chef Alex gives you my best recipes. Good night, food lovers. Sweet tooth lovers, thank you very much for tuning into tonight's episode of Primetime Baking. Chef Alex Cardinelli, everybody at the American Variety Network, hope you will use all 7 of our delicious cheesecake recipes. Cheesecakes are delicious. Make sure to bake one today, or at the very least, purchase one from local bakery and give cheesecake a try. Cheesecakes are awesome. Alright, Sweet Tooth lovers, thank you for tuning into this episode of Primetime Baking right here on the American Variety Network. Listen to it, check us out every Wednesday, 9 Prime Time Baby. BlogTalkRadio.com/Nation Network.